Welcome to a new daily top AskReddit video. Today's topic.
What is a dead giveaway that someone is an only child? I can't tell for adults. But when it's one of my kids' friends, the kid who ends up trying to hang out with the adults and gets overwhelmed by being in a group of kids has been an only child 100% of the time in my experience. Yes, I teach middle school, and I can usually spot the only kids by seeing which students gravitate towards chatting with me, rather than their peers during downtime. They seem more comfortable and confident just hanging out with the older person in the room. When I was subbing, I found that kids that have 4 to plus 5-year age gaps with their siblings tend to be more comfortable chatting with adults as well. They don't have any siblings. From my own experience, not being as prone to loneliness, the only time I really feel lonely is when I'm around people I'd rather not be with. You can very quickly detect when you don't fit in or are a third wheel too. Kind of sucks, but it means you don't waste your time with people either. Thinking friendship is like having siblings. It's not. I would never smash a toy on my friend's head and expect him to speak to me after. I wouldn't have teamed up with my best friends against their parents, or refused to listen to their parents. But me and my sister, like a two-man army in an us versus our parents battle. Yep. Whenever my siblings and I would unionize, we were unstoppable. As an only child, this is what took me the longest to understand. I thought siblings hated each other based on how they treated each other. It wasn't until I realized that they could go from assaulting each other to jumping to each other's defense in an instant that I understood how complex and deep the relationship between siblings can be. I have sisters. 4 of them. But none of us grew up together, so we don't have that dynamic. This lesson is often learned the hard way when someone is complaining about their sibling to a friend and the friend agrees and joins in and says something disparaging about them as well. Suddenly that guy who was calling his sister vile names 10 seconds ago is pissed off and chewing their friend out for doing the same. I can complain about my family, but that doesn't make it okay for you to do it, lol. On a more positive note, from personal experience, being secure with doing things alone. Edit. It's wild getting so many responses. This conversation really resonates with people. It's a fantastic study in how people really can't be put into nice little boxes. Everyone responds differently to life. Ironically, my wife is the opposite. She was an only child because of a couple of tragedies before she was born. Because of that, her mom was a little overbearing when it came to things. The result is that now as an adult, my wife hates being alone. Like, I go for a walk at night and it's non-stop texts making sure I'm okay, and then I come home to her telling me she can't sleep when I'm gone. You guys could go for a walk together and be perverts. You could hold hands in public. I am an only child. I've noticed I tend to make a lot of life choices on my own and don't seek out a lot of advice or ask for help when I could definitely use it. In fact, I've been pretty deep in tough situations when I finally have the realization that there are people and resources I can utilize. It's not so much I'm worried about asking for help, more like it doesn't even register in my brain that there is help outside of myself. The inherent guilt of troubling people and asking for help. From personal experience, food habits. Like buying snacks to store at home and fully expecting them to not have been touched when you're gone. Or eating slower at the dinner table because you're not fighting over the good food. As a teen, on the rare occasion my dad would steal a snack I got for myself, I'd freak out. Whereas my friends with siblings just resigned themselves to the fate of snacks inevitably disappearing. My mom eats super fast at meals, and she attributes it largely to growing up with siblings. I think this is why I get so peeved when my 14-year-old eats all of something I specifically bought. Because I wanted it. I'll share with him, but he's a garbage disposal and will pound an entire pack of something in no time. And I get so annoyed. My husband thinks I'm ridiculous, but I never had to share or worry about someone else eating my things growing up, haha. I keep having to explain that a bag of goldfish crackers is not a single serving. Also, they haven't had as much practice with dividing food X times. Me and my siblings are good at doing pretty perfect 3-way divisions of food because the rule was that whoever cut the item chose their piece last. A real incentive to make everything as perfectly equal as possible. They're very quiet roommates in my experience. Sometimes don't even know when they're home. I hypothesize that they're just used to quiet spaces and might feel uncomfortable when their surroundings get loud or chaotic. People with siblings are used to other people clanging around and making noise. They need more alone time and aren't scared of being home by themselves. When they're planning to go somewhere or do something, they don't tell anyone or announce it. They just go do it. As adults, they tend to live alone rather than with roommates, if circumstances allow it. If their parents are either super young or super old compared to their peers' parents, it's more likely they're the only kid. This is me to AT, but I am not an only child though. This feels more like introversion. Is introversion more prevalent among people without siblings? No tales of sibling violence. I worked with a set of brothers, and they were both a little younger than me. But I got along really well with the younger of the two. I have 3 brothers myself, 2 of which who are older than me. And we got to talking about the violence we experienced at the hands of our older brothers growing up and were commiserating about it. The older brother heard us and asked, "Wait, does that still really bother you guys that much?" Quote. And his brother and I both were like, "Fucking yeah, dude. That shit sticks with you." And he had no clue because he had always gotten away with it. As a younger brother, the feeling of powerlessness to stop it from happening in the first place, let alone fight back in any meaningful way, really sucked. Obviously, things cooled off as I got bigger and older. And thankfully I'm really good friends with all my brothers now. But those feelings could have easily led to a lot of resentment. My brothers and a cousin would chase us down and give us flying lessons. One would hold our wrists, one would hold our ankles, and one would try to catch us. They would swing us a few times to really get some momentum and then put all of their strength into hoisting us up and away. The goal was to get us over a dip in the power lines. My poor cousin was the littlest of us, and they managed to get her over it once. She had a sprung ankle and was bruised up pretty good. They quit after that. I still haven't even mentioned anything to my brother about it some 20-odd years later. He brings it up like a fond memory and genuinely thinks we had so much fun. Which, don't get me wrong, I love him fiercely and we did have some grand times. But that wasn't it. We acted like we were having fun because if we didn't, we were shamed and mocked. A deep South family if that tells you anything. He grew out of that kind of stuff though while I was still kinda young. He's 8 years older than me. Doesn't flinch when someone makes a fist quickly. Yes, my boyfriend doesn't understand. Not that he makes fist at me. Exclamation mark. Just that I flinch a lot. Also don't throw things at me expecting me to catch it. My instinct is to shield my face.